Hey everybody, this is Andy, aka Love Retro BTW, across Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I do a podcast every Saturday called Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast, a retrospective look at the wonderful world of retro gaming, from interviews to guests. Join us every Saturday, like a Saturday morning cartoon, starting at 8 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, if you're on Twitter, please join the brand new retro gaming community, a place to share, connect, and show your love for the retro gaming community. All the links are down below. And remember, enjoy the Gamers Week podcast.
Coming up on Gamers Week podcast.
I love the self-censorship.
I was going to, but I didn't want to put too much work on for Blue.
Really? Because you guys have both already sworn like a dozen times.
Well,
yeah.
Sucking mother.
Now you're just being mean.
I can't wait to hear how long that. The f is that noise?
It's a dolphin, right?
Yeah. Or dolphin, chipmunk, or whatever. I'm blowing air into my cheek.
It's the laugh of the toys from Puppet Master or something.
That's why he's so unsettled.
Okay.
Okay.
God.
It's going to be a late episode tonight, I have a feeling.
Welcome to Gamers Week podcast. Like the name says, we analyze the best, worst, and weirdest headlines of the past week in the video game industry. This is episode 51. Today is Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. My name is Donnie G. Retro, and I'll be your host this evening. My two gracious co-hosts that I have with me, they would not visit your gravesite no matter how much money you paid them or whatever retro games that you offered. We have Ryan Payne and Blue Williams with us this evening. How are you guys doing?
If you bury the retro games with you, though, depending on what they were, we might be tempted to visit and maybe, I don't know.
Quote unquote, visit.
Yeah, bring a shovel. Just, see what happens.
I'm sorry. We have to exhume this body for reasons,
Yep. Reasons.
All right. Let's take a look at our reviews, reactions, and requests. Joe Chacon says, 50th episode, my favorite podcast, and it's not even close. Frank Grande says, happy 50th episode to the Gamers Week podcast. This show and community have made this past year great. Finding this podcast is like getting that perfect item in Mario Kart at just the right time. Here's to 50 more episodes. Is it a bullet bill?
Yes, this podcast is just like Bullet Bill.
And at Holy Headshot says, awesome interview with Christopher Cross. I could have listened to his insight and answers to your questions for hours. Also showed my son Choo Choo Charles. He and his friends are liking it. He's already playing and plotting a Train v Train showdown.
Nice. And I also, as I understand, Ducks in Disguise will be playing fairly soon. Maybe he already played it. I don't know. But if you missed it, check out the VOD Ducks in Disguise at Twitch.
He did play a little bit of it last night. It was very interesting.
Yeah. When Charles shows up, the game gets a lot better. But in between that, there's a lot of stealth sections, and the stealth is real bad. So if you're going to play Choo Choo Charles, make sure you bring your patience with you.
Just a little patience. Yeah. Choo choo.
So every once in a while, I get an email from a group called Chartable Digest, and they provide us with some stats about how Gamers Week podcast is doing compared to other podcasts in our particular genre. And we have some news to announce. We are, check this out, number 5 Apple Podcasts, and entertainment news for the country of Cyprus. Yay!
Hello, Cyprus. Thanks for listening.
The only problem is that there are 6 podcasts for entertainment news in Cyprus.
Ouch. You didn't have to say that out loud.
Right.
No, but we appreciate everybody from Cyprus listening in. Awesome stuff. Kind of cool.
And now it's time for the
Very important poll.
Is that a chipmunk?
Nope. You're never going to get it.
Never gonna get it. Never gonna get it.
Never gonna get it. Never gonna get it.
Yeah, I got nothing.
According to the voice changer app, that is Donald Duck.
That is Donald Duck.
What?
I know. I don't know what Donald Duck they grew up with. I won't be paying for that app.
Sounded like Daisy Smurf getting an enema. But what do I know?
All right. Every Monday on Twitter, we post our VIP. That is our very important poll. And if you'd like to participate, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. So this week's question was, what is your favorite launch title of all time? Coming in at third place was Halo Combat Evolved on the Xbox with 17.3% of the vote. Second place was Tetris for the Game Boy with 19.4% of the vote. And the winner by a landslide, Super Mario Bros. For the NES with 40.5% of the vote. We also had 22.9% of people vote other. So let's look at some of the comments from the poll. At Ants May Be Cool says, Nintendo Land. I know, but that game is hella fun with 5 people. If I ever have an odd number of friends over, I always suggest it. At Drew226 said, Super Mario 64. I still haven't had another this changes everything moment like it. At Silverlands35 says, I'd say Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. At Sweet Idealism says, Luigi's Mansion, hands down. And at Retro Logic Games says, can we have some appreciation for Excite Truck on the Wii? If you know, you know. I don't know.
Neither do I. I'm oblivious.
Yeah. So how did you vote in the poll, Ryan?
This one's a tough one because there are so many good options out there. You know, there are definitely games that helped sell a console. There's games that I have nostalgia for. One of those, of course, is Halo Combat Evolved. That's the reason I bought an Xbox. All of my friends were playing it. So I went with that one. Me and my brother pitched in to get the official Halo Xbox, the green one with the cool Halo controller. And we went nuts with the game. It was a lot of fun. Tetris, of course, helped sell the Game Boy. It made it so that it sold over 100 million units or what have you. But for me, the game that really changed, this changes everything moment that Drew was talking about is Super Mario World. I absolutely loved that game when it first came out. I was obsessed with it. And then as an adult, because I didn't have the internet back then, I found out all about like the Star Road and all the things that you can do that are kind of bonus items to the game. And that really, as an adult, has helped me enjoy the game that much more. So my vote is definitely Super Mario World.
You didn't find Star Road when you were a kid? Oh my gosh.
Yes. There it is.
Just getting in there before the comments. So how did you vote, Donnie?
Well, first let me tell you why Ryan's answer is a load of crap.
Oh.
It's not, actually, because that's my choice. Super Mario World. Everything Ryan said about this is just, I couldn't agree more. You got Super Mario Brothers for the NES, yes, but it had several other titles with it that helped sell it. It had the sports series, the action series, and all that stuff, which was great. But when the Super Nintendo came out, and I saw Super Mario World for the first time, and I saw the vibrant colors, the sound. You had the map that was reminiscent of Super Mario Brothers 3. And I was just like, wow, this game looks freaking amazing. Not only did it look great, it sounded great. It was fun to play. It's a game I can still pick up. I can go whenever I did stream. and I played retro games, I was like, you know what? What do I want to play? Do I want to play something new? Do I want to take the chance on playing something new that I'm going to put an hour of investment time in it and not going to like? Oh, there's Super Mario World. I love that game. Mm-hmm. I love playing that game every once in a while and trying to beat it and trying to complete it in its entirety. And it holds the test of time, in my opinion. So my vote was Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo.
And not to mention, it's the introduction of frickin' Yoshi, for crying out loud. I remember the first time. I remember the first time I saw Yoshi, my little brain had exploded. You have a mount, and it's a dinosaur. Yep. This is the coolest thing ever.
And he can eat different things, and those things can change based on what he eats. If it's a red shell, a green shell, or what have you, completely opened up a new dynamic for the game.
And we won't mention the fact that Mario punches Yoshi back in the back of the head to get his tongue to stick out.
Blue, what is your choice?
So I thought long and hard about this. And I do want to point out that I think half of the comments we got were people going, obviously it's Super Mario World. Why isn't that in the poll? It should be Super Mario World. So that I think is the actual true winner of the whole poll. But I didn't want to say Super Mario World. I wanted to say something different and cool and interesting. And so I looked up every launch title from the NES upward for every console that came out. And I got nothing. I got nothing that could even come close to Super Mario World. And so it is with begrudging respect that I say that sometimes the obvious answer is the correct one for a very good reason. So I also voted Super Mario World.
Clean sweep, folks.
Clean sweep.
Bow down to the master. Now, my close second, now this is just favorite. It wasn't by popularity. It wasn't by units sold or anything like that. Can you take a stab in the dark what my second favorite launch title of a system was?
Well, you're like 400 years old, so I'm going to say Combat for the Atari 2600.
Somebody woke up and chose violence.
You son of a...
Was Night Trap a launch title?
Night Trap was a launch title.
Man, you know him well.
I mean, talking about obvious answers, I'm pretty sure everybody who's listening is shouting Night Trap.
Yep. One of my all-time favorite games, and second as far as launch titles go.
Hold you to find you, Night Trap.
I'll just leave this whole segment in, and then you can just hum the whole time. Hum Night Trap the entire time.
Please don't.
I mean, if you would like hum the whole song, what is it, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Just sit there and hum the whole song, and we just leave it in like that. That would be hilarious.
You're like, what the?
Gamers Week has lost it.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
What's funny is I've been sitting here for the past 2 minutes, not realizing I was still on mute. All right, let's take a look at our patron shout-outs.
All right, we couldn't do what we do without the help of our gorgeous patrons. Here are the generous folks supporting Gamers Week on Patreon. Games with Coffee, Hybrid Divide, You Fall Before Me, Davey PGH, the Red Ox PDX family, including Shanna and Luke, Zach, huge thanks, Rerun Gamer, #1 Blue Sick Voice fan, Random Retro Dude, Princess Kitty Mew Mew, Ryebread, Secret Best Friend, Mega Retro Man, Gamatroid, Emo S, Bill Tucker, Ryebread's #1 fan, Fruitcake's #1 stan, Ducks with Thick Thighs, The Wizard of Zardoz, Claimant 71, Great Save Man 81, B&T Zilla Guy, Geek with That, Crunchy Kong, Sheriff Snacks, Frank Grande, J&L Game, Love Retro BTW, Steven San, Ramboski, Terry Kinnair, Ducks in Disguise, and Jim and Colleen. If you like what you hear today, and we really hope that you do, please consider joining us on Patreon. Your support helps cover the cost of producing the show, as well as other cool stuff we'll be doing like prizes and giveaways. You also gain access to our weekly patron-only bonus cast called Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. Visit patreon.com/gamersweek or follow the link in the show notes to learn more.
And let's take a look at our headlines for the week. Our headline segment is proudly sponsored by the Retro Game Club podcast. It's a fantastic family-friendly retro gaming podcast. In each episode, Rob and Hugh pick 2 games to play and discuss, as well as news, interviews, and other topics. Currently, they're playing through Primal Rage and Fighter's History. Visit them at retrogameclub.net or follow the link in the show notes.
Do you remember when Primal Rage first came out?
I do, and I hated it.
Did you really?
I did because, okay, so this is something that I discussed on a previous episode where the developers of Primal Rage, they did a complete 180. Because normally with a fighting game, you do the joystick and you press the buttons, and that executes the move. Mm-hmm. Primal Rage did it differently. You press the buttons, and then you do the joystick move. And then it completes the move. So me as a 13, 14-year-old, when this game comes out, I'm in the arcades. I'm slapping the buttons. It actually has on the bezel, the art bezel, how to do the move. And I'm like, okay, I'm following the thing. It's like, it's not freaking working. What is going on? And then I eventually gave up on that game and went back to playing Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat.
I agree that it was super hard the first time you played it. I didn't know that was the reason why, so thank you for filling me in. All of those years of just anguish thinking I suck. I now know why.
Well,
thanks, bud. But the whole concept of like dinosaurs and like huge apes fighting each other, that was super cool. I remember being like enthralled with it. And then you played it and I was like, oh, okay.
It just kind of fell flat.
Yep.
All right. First up from Bloomberg, the hype around esports is fading as investors and sponsors dry up. The once thriving esports industry has fallen on hard times as funding sources dwindle and signs abound that athletic competition via video games doesn't have anywhere near the earning potential investors anticipated. Since the summer, Team Solo Mid and 100 Thieves, the 2 most valuable esports organizations according to Forbes, have terminated dozens of positions in total. In November, Evil Geniuses, one of the oldest esports groups, disbanded its North American team. Game publishers, too, are shrinking their esports operations, and that's trickling down to tournament organizers, teams, and players. Making matters worse, viewership for League of Legends Championship Series, one of the most mainstream leagues in esports, is at a 5-year low, according to data aggregated by Esports Charts. As originally envisioned, esports organizations were supposed to generate revenue by selling stadium tickets and merchandise or sharing profit with game publishers from large sponsorship and broadcast deals. But the revenue generators that worked for traditional sports so far aren't working in esports. Esports fans also spend far less on merchandise and digital goods than traditional sports fans. While 261 million people globally watch esports at least once a month, each enthusiast only produces $5.30 in revenue per year, according to industry tracker Newzoo. While many esports organizations seem to be moving on, focusing more on influencers and less on sports teams, some executives think game publishers should take more responsibility for the predicament teams find themselves in today. It's important that publishers step in to find a solution to create digital revenue opportunities for the esports ecosystem they have built and benefit from, said Arnold Herr, Chief Executive Officer of esports organization Gen G. It's clear that relying solely on media and sponsorship deals, especially in this kind of market, simply will not work.
Wow. I think what stuck out to me is that each enthusiast only produces $5.30 in revenue. It's like a sticker.
And that's just the nachos.
Like an NBA team, NFL team, whatever. You buy a hat. You buy one hat a year. It's going to be like $25.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I just think esports are a different beast. I really don't think that people are going to be wearing the esports jersey of their favorite, e-athlete consistently when it's like, okay, maybe they won 2 championships and now they're gone. Like, no, it's not feasible for me.
I think you're right. I think also that has to do with the acceptance of esports outside of the esports realm. When you look at your average professional sports team, it's acceptable to wear someone's jersey. People know who they are. They know the statistics of that person. Even if you're not somebody who's a fan of that sport, you know what that is. And then you walk around and see somebody wearing a FaZe Clan shirt and you're like, who cares, right? It's not something that people, I think, are looking to rep every single week or every single day.
Yeah. The push in the last several years to put esports and regular sports on the same playing field has always been one of the weirder spins to me. Mm-hmm. Like, gamers are athletes. No, they're not. And speaking as somebody who loves games, we're not athletes. We're sitting on our butts.
Right.
It's okay, it's our hobby. It's our pastime. It doesn't need to be a sport to still be popular. But I got to say that the whole esports boom has been one of the things that have most made me feel really, really old as a gamer because I just really could not give a crap about any of them. I don't even really like any of these games very much. And yet people go so nutter butters. All they want to do is play one game. Like, these esports people pick one game and that's the game they play for the rest of their life.
Right. All I see is League of Legends. I'm sorry. I hate real-time strategy games. And if I go to an arena and you're playing that, nope, I'm out. Can I get a refund on my ticket, please?
Right, exactly. And esports is one of the biggest reasons that I left freelance writing, because every time there was a video game job posted, I'd go to look at the details of the job and they'd say, yes, you have to write about esports. And like, that was it. They didn't care about any other video game coverage. All these companies cared about was esports coverage. Like, well, I'm out. I guess, like, if this is all the video games media cares about anymore is esports, then I'm done. I'm walking away.
Right. And realistically, it's because they're following the money, right? It's all of these sponsorship deals and players making millions of dollars, that kind of thing. It's chasing the money because they're trying to create this empire. Realistically, sports teams for professional sports have kind of done it right, where they've created this almost built-in loyalty because it's your city and I got to support that team from my city mentality, which is total bullshit. Think about it. Like, I was born close to this, so I've got to somehow support this really crappy team, Buffalo.
I'm glad you said it.
Oh, I totally get it. I'm in that trap. I'm not saying I'm not immune to that, but nonetheless, if you really think about it, step back, it's really stupid. Nonetheless, that creates that sense of brand loyalty. Do you have that as much with these groups? Because again, they're disbanding, they're changing out players all the time, they're getting caught for cheating, all of these things. It's just a maelstrom of bad press after bad press.
I mean, everything you just said applies just as well to professional sports as esports.
And you can get away with that if you've had a team for over 60 years.
Right. Professional sports has been embedded in the culture in a way that esports has not.
Right.
I guess if professional sports has something going for it, it's that it appeals to a wide audience. It appeals to all ages. Right. Whereas esports, I think, is pretty narrow.
I will go to the store, even down here in Georgia. If I'm wearing something that's Bills related, I will hear somebody yell from very far away, "Go Bills!"
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't think anybody's going, "Go FaZe Clan!"
Right. And for the most part, when they see FaZe, they're like, ugh.
Right. For obvious reasons.
Cheating.
Next up from the Washington Post, Diablo 4 developers work long hours bracing for impending release. Activision Blizzard employees developing the upcoming dark fantasy action role-playing game Diablo 4 say it will be hard to meet a June 6, 2023 release date without working significant overtime, in a process they say has been plagued by mismanagement. The company is incentivizing employees to crunch, an industry term referring to working late evenings and weekends outside of regular work hours, by promising them perks some workers say are paltry. 15 current and former Blizzard employees spoke to the Washington Post on the condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to speak publicly about company operations. They described a mounting sense of dissatisfaction and malaise among employees as they endured leadership changes at Activision Blizzard and on the Diablo 4 team. The Diablo team has been losing talent for over a year as employees look for more competitive wages and better working conditions elsewhere, according to employees. Last January, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick attributed the company's stock price drop to the delay of Diablo 4 in a VentureBeat interview, rather than an ongoing sexual harassment lawsuit filed against the company in July of 2021. His comments frustrated some of the company's developers who felt he was blaming them unfairly. "We felt very much like he just drove the bus over top of us," said the former Diablo team lead. Blizzard Entertainment spokesperson Andrew Reynolds told the Post, "Production on the game has been going extremely well. Overtime is voluntary and limited to specific teams. We regularly survey the team on their professional well-being, and the latest results are the most positive they've been in years." That sounds like the exact opposite.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to take that last statement that, let's see, the latest results are the most positive they've been in years. So previously to this year, they've been really super bad. So that as bad as they currently are, it's still an improvement.
It's slightly better.
Or they're full of crap.
I gotta say, I'm taking the word of the employees here. They're the ones putting in the hard hours, trying to get the game developed. And yeah, you've got upper management trying to get you to, you have to meet this deadline. You have to meet this deadline. You have to do whatever it takes. Hey, guess what? You work 12-hour days, 14-hour days. At the end of the week, we'll give you some pizza, man. How about that? Does that satisfy you? No,
Right.
It certainly does not.
I thought pizza solves everything.
I mean, it covers a world of hurt. Let's be honest, but I imagine that the developers are under immense pressure to get it done, to have a good attitude, to speak well of the company, to people outside the company.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on how they survey the team on their professional well-being, depending on the way the questions are phrased or who specifically they send the survey to, yeah, I suppose it does come back looking like they're doing a good job when they're just spinning it to make it look that way.
And we've talked about crunch a million times and how it's a terrible way to develop games. And almost always when we read about these things, it's about mismanagement. It's about changes in leadership. It's about missing deadlines as a result of that. And the worst part is that the people that suffer the most from it are the people that have probably not attributed to why they're having to go into that crunch situation.
Right.
They're the ones that are putting their nose against the grindstone, getting their job done. And you have a management team that has no clue how to effectively run anything. And they're the ones that are the cause of it. And yet the other people have to suffer.
Right. And yet, despite all this, can you imagine the negative blowback that would happen if they delayed this yet again?
Oh, it would be catastrophic to their entire team and to the IP itself, to the franchise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Catastrophic.
So these poor developers are basically in a no-win situation.
But I mean, here's the thing. What happens when they do put in that crunch? They do sacrifice their time, their personal time, and they go in and they get the new version of Diablo 4 released in time. Everything's great. Yay, it's a big hit. Guess what? We're going to lay you off.
Yeah, 80% of you are going to get laid off today.
Yeah.
But thanks for sacrificing your health, your sanity, your relationships.
Exactly.
We appreciate that.
If they really wanted these developers to be incentivized, maybe instead of stock options, which is the whole company, why not revenue share?
Oh, no.
That's real money. We don't give real money.
I'm just saying, if I worked for a company that had the opportunity for revenue share like that, like even though we're talking a percent of a percent of a percent, it's still something. And
no, Bobby Kotick would not want that money taken right out of his family's pocket.
And probably Microsoft wouldn't either, considering they're going to hopefully own this company by the time the game releases.
In my perfect world, they're like, yeah, that sounds great, Ryan. Let's do that.
I mean, listening to the state of Blizzard today, you do kind of hope that this purchase goes through, because maybe Microsoft would be able to get this company in ship shape.
That's a big maybe, though.
It's a big maybe.
It's a huge maybe.
But what's the alternative? Is Activision Blizzard, are they going to change themselves?
Absolutely not. And the only time that they've ever changed anything had to do with the fact that they were being reported on for sexual harassment, which I agree is a very urgent topic to handle. But nonetheless, you report crunch and all these other mismanaged things, they don't get as much press, if you will, which is sad, but it is what it is.
Well, and it's the whole mindset of, do you really want to voice your opinion and risk losing your job? I mean, right now you have a job. Yes, you might have to work a little bit harder, but you have a job. And if you get ousted, I don't know how big the blacklist is in the video game community. So if you're a developer at one company and they're like, you're gone, does that word get around? Like, oh, if you go try and get hired at some other development studio and they're like, oh, you got fired from Activision Blizzard? Oh, yep, sorry. Yeah, no thanks.
Oh, I guarantee you they talk. They definitely talk.
Yeah.
Just see who meets Bobby Kotick for tea times, and I suppose you'll know what the blacklist is.
That's a good
Pretty
point.
much. Well, this segues great into our next topic. From CNN, FTC sues to block Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
I just want to say, I called it. I don't know how many episodes ago I said this, but I said I'd be interested to see if the U.S. government sues Microsoft
what you
for
said
this.
was, I wonder if the U.S. will hold hearings like the U.K. is.
Yes.
That's what you said.
Kind of called it.
This is technically, a hearing. It's a friggin' lawsuit that'll be in a courtroom.
Don't take away from my victory here, Blue.
I'm sorry.
The Federal Trade Commission on Thursday sued to block Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, challenging one of the largest tech acquisitions in history. The administrative complaint filed by the FTC alleges that the blockbuster deal, which would make Microsoft the third largest video game publisher in the world, would give Microsoft both the means and motive to harm competition, claiming it could negatively affect prices of video games as well as game quality and player experiences on consoles and gaming services, according to an agency release. Officials in the United Kingdom and the European Union have also scrutinized the deal as potentially anti-competitive. But the FTC complaint marks the first attempt by an antitrust regulator to block the deal outright. This is the boldest move the Biden administration has made so far to police mergers involving big tech and to expand the realm of merger enforcement, said William Kovacic, a law professor at George Washington University and a former FTC chairman. More than anything else they've done, this embodies their commitment to get tough on mergers. Microsoft's president Brad Smith said in a statement Thursday, "We continue to believe that this deal will expand competition and create more opportunities for gamers and game developers. We have been committed since day one to addressing competition concerns, including by offering earlier this week proposed concessions to the FCC. While we believed in giving peace a chance, we have complete confidence in our case and welcome the opportunity to present our case in court."
We believed in giving peace a chance. It's war now, apparently.
Right.
Pretty much. Now, as soon as they win this, if they do win the lawsuit, they'll probably retract all the concessions they made to Nintendo and to Sony. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? Guess what? Call of Duty not coming to your consoles. They're going to stay on Xbox. We won. We're king. Whatever it is now. Bow down.
I love the self-censorship.
I was going to, but I didn't want to put too much work on for Blue.
Really? Because you guys have both already sworn like a dozen times.
Well,
Yeah.
Sucking mother.
Now you're just being mean.
I can't wait to hear how long that. So I'm not surprised. Honestly, I'm not surprised that they went this route. You know, in the past, say, 10 years or so, mergers and acquisitions has been a big part of large corporations across the globe. And it's been a big problem for a lot of it because most of those acquisitions are done by like private equity firms, and they gut companies and they ruin people's lives in the process to try to make a profit off of the company that they're buying. So it's not surprising to me that the U.S. government is looking to crack down on this stuff because it has had such a negative impact on the average person.
I guess it's an interesting place to draw the line. I mean, as far as dollar amount goes, it's of course the biggest video game acquisition by far. I remember talking about ZeniMax Media being acquired and Bungie being acquired by Sony, and Zynga was bought by Take-Two Interactive, and those were all big headlines. And it seemed for a while there that every time there was a new acquisition, we said, this is the biggest acquisition in video game history. No, this is the biggest acquisition. No, this is the biggest acquisition. And then this came along.
And was 10 times as big as anything before it.
So if Part of the reasoning of the FTC is to promote competition in the marketplace by preventing big companies from swallowing up little companies. They've let a lot of stuff go by already.
Yes,
And
they
then
have.
this is where they decided to pump the brakes.
I think they're focusing on the wrong thing here when they say they could negatively affect prices of video games. Yeah, no kidding. So could any company out there. They could say, well, we're going to set the new standard as making video games $89 for each new release, for each AAA title. Does that mean you actually have to go out and pay them? No, you don't.
One of the problems that you run into is that if Microsoft's the only one who's selling games and they set that price at $89.99, that's the only place that you can buy those games. So you're kind of forced. You don't have a choice. And I think that that's their concern.
Absolutely. But it does make sense. But Microsoft isn't the only company making games.
You're
so
right.
You definitely have your other choices there. You have Nintendo with their first party games and their third party developers. You have Sony. So you have choices out there. So yeah, Microsoft might come in, increase the cost of their games. They might say, well, you can only have these games if you buy our console, which again, I've said this a million times over. We've been dealing with that crap since the 90s. That shouldn't come into effect here. The fact that you have other choices, you could totally stick it to Microsoft. You have options.
People could stick it to Microsoft, you're correct, but they won't. That's the thing. I mean, you look at, like we've talked about before, with Activision Blizzard, despite how terrible their company is, people still buy their games. Sure, we'll download your kernel level anti-cheat. We'll do whatever you say, because as long as we get to play Call of Duty, we'll do whatever you say. We'll pay whatever you say. And Nintendo continues to sell their games for full price. They never go on sale.
No, they don't.
People still buy them. So you're correct in saying that people could stick it to Microsoft, but nobody's going to do that.
I will do that.
Donnie's like,
I'm going to shake my old man fist at the sky and say, you're not going to get my additional $20. All right, next up from Forbes, incredible lost Michael Jackson Sega game footage uncovered by fans. Michael Jackson's work with Sega isn't only extensive, it continues to surprise us all. His performances in Moonwalker and Space Channel 5 are the stuff of legends, but his role as composer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3's soundtrack was only confirmed by Sega legend Yuji Naka this June. However, in 1993, he also acted in a long-lost Sega simulation, a performance that has barely been documented until now. Previously, unseen footage of Jackson as the lead actor in the largely unknown Advanced System 1 motion simulator game Scramble Training has finally been made public by a pair of Sega enthusiasts following the chance discovery of a seemingly forgotten tape found at a UK flea market. Until now, Scramble Training's experience was limited only to shaky, poor quality camcorder footage from the 90s. However, following the chance discovery, we can finally see every piece of footage from Sega's strangest collaboration with the late King of Pop, a pseudo game that could only be enjoyed at one of many long-gone Sega World locations around the globe. Ted Hayden, an 18-year-old contributor to the game preservationist collective Gaming Alexandria, has uploaded the footage to YouTube for all to see.
This stuff makes me happy. The fact that you take a VHS tape, I'm assuming it's a VHS tape, at a flea market.
Yeah, that's gutsy. That's gutsy. I'm going to buy this box of unmarked VHS tapes. No, I don't think so. You're going to get some weird porn videos. You're going to get somebody's snuff video.
Yup. Oh, here's Michael Jackson. I've never seen this before.
which could still be a porn or snuff video.
Yeah, it could. And then they start researching it and they're like, holy crap, this is a game that was never really released. Like, there's got to be more of this. No, you have pretty much the only copy of this. This is the last copy in existence. What? That stuff needs to be preserved.
You know, what's interesting too is that Jackson's hidden secrets into games there's a lot of lore behind that as well. And one of the other interesting parts is that if you buy like an earlier copy of Michael Jackson Moonwalker, there's a section where you can get Thriller to play on the actual cartridge itself. which was not in the game, which is so stupid considering it was like the most popular song that was released by Michael Jackson. They didn't have it, but they recorded it and it's available on that cartridge. So those particular cartridges that you can get are extremely more valuable if you send that out there. So it's amazing to me that we're still finding stuff that Michael Jackson did in the past to be involved with Sega. It was like he was this weird collaboration that they're like, you know what? You know who would be good for this game? Michael Jackson. They got him on speed dial, like, hey, Mike.
Yeah. And what's funny is the fact that this was only confirmed this year that he composed Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Right.
When I've heard that rumor now for a couple of years.
For years, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like how Carrie Fisher was a prolific script doctor in Hollywood. They would bring her on to fix screenplays, and almost all of her work was completely uncredited.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Somebody like Carrie Fisher, you would think her name would help sell films, but for whatever reason, her work was uncredited. And I wonder if Michael Jackson is kind of the same way.
You're going to find out that every soundtrack that Yuji Naka made actually was originally written by Michael Jackson. Why is there like a hee hee?
All right, and now on to our top 3 new releases.
First up is River City Girls 2. Platform is PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. The River City Girls are back. Misako, Kyoko, Kuni, and Riki, joined by newcomers Marion and Provi. Provi? Hit the streets. Hit the streets for an all-new beat-em-up adventure. Team up with your local or online co-op and explore massive world packed with new abilities, enemies, locations, and more. Next up is High on Life. Platform Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, PC. Exclusive. From the mind of Justin Roiland. From, of course, Rick and Morty, comes High on Life. Humanity is being threatened by an alien cartel who wants to use them as drugs. It's up to you to rescue and partner with charismatic talking guns. Take down Garmantuous.
Good enough.
I guess.
Take down Garmantuous and his gang and save the world. And last up, Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 7 Reunion. Platform PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7 Reunion is a remaster of Crisis Core. In addition to all graphics remastered in HD, fully voiced dialogue, and new soundtrack arrangements make for a dynamic, new retelling of a beloved classic. Follow the tale of soldier operative Zack Fair as he discovers the secrets of Shinra's dark experiments. So taking a look at these 3, Donnie, what are you going with this week?
I think I'm going with High on Life. We had discussed this a couple of episodes ago. Yes, it's a first-person shooter. It looks like a funny first-person shooter with a lot of jokes, a lot of raunchy jokes possibly. I'm in for that one. Close second is River City Girls 2. I didn't get a chance to play the original River City Girls. It looks like a fun beat-em-up. But if I had to choose between one of those two, it's definitely High on Life. Crisis Core, not even looking at you.
Blue, what about you?
Well, kind of the same. I'm so over everything Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
High on Life, it looks fun, but I don't like shooters. It looks like something I would like to watch somebody stream because I think it still looks entertaining and funny. River City Girls 2, I haven't played the first one yet, though I've heard really good things, and I mean to play it someday. So that's the one that I would go for.
Nice.
What about you, Ryan?
I'm a huge Justin Roiland fan, obviously, for my love of Rick and Morty. But I will say from a pure gaming experience, probably River City Girls 2 is where I'm more at. I like beat 'em ups. I've always enjoyed the genre, and they've done these very, very well. So the fact that they're coming out with the second one it's pretty exciting for me. I'm definitely looking to check it out and punch and kick people for no apparent reason.
They took your boyfriends, at least in the first one. You have to go rescue your boyfriends.
I'm not, I got to be honest with you. I've played a lot of beat 'em ups. I rarely pay attention to the story. So we're going to be doing things a little differently for our December giveaway. So instead of giving away one game with one winner, we're going to be giving away 2 games with 2 winners, which means you have twice the chance to win. So for December, we're going to be giving away a brand new copy of Bayonetta 3 and Zombies Ate My Neighbors / Ghoul Patrol for the Nintendo Switch. To enter the giveaway, look for @RetroGameBrews pinned tweet on Friday morning, December 16th. Give our Twitter account @GamersWeekPC a follow and retweet for 1 entry into the contest. If you want 2 more entries, comment with a picture or screenshot of you listening to episode 51 for a possible total of 3 entries. Entries will be accepted from Friday, December 16th to Tuesday, December 20th. You're already listening to the episode, so you might as well enter now before you forget.
And now on to our main topic for the week. The Game Awards aired last week, and thanks to the Wednesday curse, we're just now able to do our wrap-up of the live stream. So for our main topic tonight, we're going to review our predictions and find out which one of us got the most picks correct. Then we'll be recapping the biggest game announcements from the show. So for Game of the Year this year was Elden Ring. Do you guys remember what you picked?
Indeed, I do. I predicted Elden Ring back in January, episode 3. I said Elden Ring will be Game of the Year in 2022.
Well, look at who's right.
I know, look at who's right. Now, to be fair, I may have done that so that we could get the sweet downloads for having the title Elden Ring in the episode title.
Strategic.
That's wicked
I like
smart.
It. Yeah.
And it wasn't that crazy of a guess anyway, but I still did it. I still predicted it back in January, so I am taking this win.
I went with Stray, and I still think it should be Game of the Year.
You haven't even played it. You don't know.
Oh, are you gatekeeping him?
Yes. In this matter, you can't say something was cheated of Game of the Year when you haven't even played it.
I guess I have no say-so in any of these choices because I didn't play Elden Ring, and yet I chose it to be Game of the Year.
No, you can make a guess without having played it, but to be like, no, it was robbed. You can't do that.
But what if you've watched somebody else play it, and you've watched countless hours of that? Does that still count?
No, because you should just play it yourself then.
Exactly. So Blue said Elden Ring, Ryan said Stray, Donnie said Elden Ring. The correct answer was Elden Ring, of course. So we each get a point. Ryan is in the gutter.
Where I shall remain for
he was there before.
Right.
All right, for the next category was Best Narrative, and the winner was God of War. So for the recap, Ryan voted Elden Ring. Donnie voted Plague Tale Requiem. I got it right. 2 in a row, God of War Ragnarok.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My explanation was that it was probably going to come down to Elden Ring or God of War, and I didn't think Elden Ring was like super narrative heavy. It has a lot of lore, but it's not necessarily narrative heavy,
So technically, I get half a point then, right? Because you struggled with your pick, so technically I would get half a point. I mean, you get a full point, I get half a point. Donnie, 0.
Not following your logic here.
I still have a full point.
Oh, I'll figure out ways to get more half points.
All right, let's see this spin then. Next category is Best Art Direction. Again, Elden Ring was the winner. And again, I picked Elden Ring. Ryan picked Score. Donnie picked Stray. I was going back and forth between Elden Ring and Scorn because they're both really compelling visually, but I figured Elden Ring was the bigger title, thus it would get the votes.
Half point for Ryan.
How about a quarter point?
I'll take it.
Blue is so far 3 for 3.
3 for 3, baby.
All right, next up is Best Score / Music, and the winner this year was Bear McCreary for God of War Ragnarok. Blue picked, of course, again, the winner, Bear McCreary for God of War Ragnarok.
Woo! If you'd like me to pick your lottery numbers, I'm going to need $300 PayPal'd over to my Gmail.
Damn, that's steep. They better win.
And Donnie and I picked the real winner out of these two, which of course was 2 feathers for Metal Hellsinger, which got cheated.
Ipso facto, we should each get 2 points for that one.
Agreed.
You guys are just making up rules now. There's a lot to be said for picking with your heart, but in life, that's not going to get you very far, I think.
That's right, kids. Don't follow your dreams.
Nope.
Next up is Best Performance. And the winner, of course, was, surprise, surprise, Chris Judge for God of War Ragnarok. In this particular choice, Donnie picked the right one this time around.
Yeah, baby. Woo!
You picked it randomly. You had no idea.
I know. I remember that pick too. I was just like, I haven't seen any of these games. I haven't seen the story. I don't know the acting. Fine. Let's just pull one out of my butt. Christopher Judge. Sure. Why not? Sounds good. And lo and behold, he took home the prize. All right.
And also took the prize for, I think, the longest speech at the Game Award. With, I think, the most swear words as well, because there was like mother in there, and there was there was a bunch.
8 minutes of worth of it.
Right. And walking into the Game Awards, of course, it's done live and it's not on like a TV network, so naturally they can use curse words and profanity if they want to. It's still always surprising when you see something that's so official and you hear an F-bomb drop. And you're like, whoa, did they not edit that out quick enough? Like,
I mean, it's not like it's being broadcasted on TV or anything.
That's what I'm saying, though.
It
has the feel that it should be on TV because of like the pomp and circumstance, but then all of a sudden it's a quick reminder to you that this is not actually on TV.
Right. It's the wild, wild west of the internet.
Yeah. So for the second most correct answer, Ryan picked Ashley Birch for Horizon Forbidden West, and
How is
Blue
that the second most?
picked Charlotte McBurney for Plague Tale Requiem.
Yeah, this is the point in the picks where I decided to start hedging my bets because I'd gone Elden Ring and God of War so far, and I thought, but maybe something else will slip in there, so I should expand my guessing pool. And look where it got me.
Got you up 4 points already?
I mean, yes, by sticking to the 2 correct answers. When I decided to hedge my bets, that's when I started to lose.
Well, let's see if Blue picked up another point in the final category, which was the best indie. The winner, of course, was Stray. Blue, Ryan, and myself, if you guys remember, we all picked Cult of the Lamb, not Stray, Cult of the Lamb. I wanted to go with Stray because I thought the game looked beautiful. I thought that if it won Best Indie, it might possibly end up winning Best Game of the Year. Sadly, that did not happen, but I kind of went with the crowd and I picked Cult of the Lamb, which, I mean, based on what Blue was saying about the game and how it looked, it looks amazing. It looks fun as hell. It looks funny, and I think it's a game that I definitely need to play soon.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it in hindsight, of course, Stray won because Cult of the Lamb is super niche. It's super dark. It's super irreverent. It probably offended a ton of people.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah, which is why I love it.
And Stray was a game where you run around as a cat. And everybody's going to freaking go bonkers for that. And they did. So, of course, Stray won. And Cult of the Lamb probably never really had a choice. But this is the one. This was the one where I voted with my heart. Because I love Cult of the Lamb. And as we said earlier, didn't get me anywhere.
All right, let's take a look at the final score and how many points we each accumulated. In the competition, Blue, 4 points. Yay!
Yay.
Thank you.
Donnie, coming in second. Okay, good. 2 points. Golf clap on that one. And third place, bringing up the rear with a big
2.25 unofficial points.
followed by a goose egg, Ryan with 0 points. None of Ryan's pick. Yeah, we'll applaud that anyway. Yeah, it was a good effort.
Participation trophy.
Yay. We're all winners. No, we're not. I won. What's my prize for winning?
You get to host next week.
You're correct.
Worst prize ever.
Okay.
What do I win? A punch in the face.
Look up, look down. Now look at Mr. Frying Pan.
A UHF reference, yes. Get to drink from the fire hose.
All right, let's move on to the recap from IGN, the Game Awards 2022, everything announced. It's the most wonderful time of the year in the world of video games as the Game Awards has returned for another night of awards, show-stopping announcements, beautiful musical performances, and more. There were a ton of announcements, trailers, and special moments at the Game Awards 2022. However, there was too much to cover tonight, so we'll just be hitting the highlights. First up, Square Enix has revealed that Final Fantasy XVI will be released on June 22nd, 2023. Alongside the release date, fans were treated to another gorgeous look at the game, including its summon battle system and the latest iteration of Ifrit.
I found out that it's pronounced Ifrit from that trailer.
And the latest iteration of Ifrit.
Next up is Elden Ring developer From Software has officially announced Armored Core 6 alongside revealing a new trailer that shows giant robots fighting each other. We didn't know much about the game yet, but it's confirmed that its new title will be released in 2023. Hades 2 was officially announced. Yep, I know, right? At the Game Awards, and will send players back to the world of the original. Developer Supergiant Games is set to welcome players to try Hades 2 via early access in 2023.
Ken Levine, or Levine if you're sophisticated, the creator of BioShock, has finally revealed his much-anticipated game, Judas. Details are scarce, but it looks to be a narrative-driven, single-player, first-person shooter that definitely gives off some BioShock in space vibes. And Hideo Kojima stopped by the Game Awards to help reveal that Death Stranding 2 is officially on the way. We got an extended look at the sequel to the 2019 original, and we get a glimpse of Fragile, an older Sam Bridges, and more.
Must be Italian.
Cyberpunk 2077's major 2023 expansion, Phantom Liberty, will see Idris Elba joining Keanu Reeves in the cast. Elba will play a U.S. veteran named Solomon Reed and is apparently the only person players can trust to help them fulfill an impossible mission of espionage and survival. Alongside the confirmation that Star Wars Jedi Survivor will be released on March 17, 2023, the Game Awards gave us a brand new gameplay trailer that shows more of Cal Kestis' next adventure. This new story picks up 5 years after the original, and Kestis has become a stronger, more powerful Jedi Knight. Unfortunately, the Empire has gotten stronger as well.
The much-anticipated Street Fighter VI will fight its way... Oh, that's such a terrible way to put it. Fight its way to a June 2nd, 2023 release date. The news came alongside a new trailer that featured DJ, Manon, Marissa, JP, and more. Celeste developer Extremely OK Games has shared its first look trailer of its upcoming game, Earthblade, and it is confirmed that it will be released in 2024. The game was previously described as 2D explore action game. Is that right? Without an E?
They're making up a new word, exploration.
Okay. Exploration game. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, instead of exploration.
Got it.
Despite Bayonetta 3 having been released in October, a new spin-off set in the franchise's universe will arrive on Switch in March 17th, 2023. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon will let players control both a young version of Bayonetta 3's Cereza and Cheshire. Publisher 505 Games has unveiled crime boss Rockay City. Rockay! It features a star-studded cast that includes Michael Madsen, Chuck Norris, Danny Glover, Kim Basinger, Danny Trejo, and Vanilla Ice. The game looks to be a stealth action first-person shooter that tasks players with becoming leaders of a criminal underworld in a fictional version of 90s Florida. You had me at Vanilla Ice.
Drop the zero, get with the hero.
Exactly.
Did they forget in this list Michael Rooker? Because he's like the first thing that you see. The guy who he was in Walking Dead. Rooker, sorry, Rooker, not Rocker. Michael Rooker.
But is he a 90s icon? Because all of these people are 90s icons.
Yes, he was. He was in Mallrats. He was in Days of Thunder.
Because Mallrats makes him a 90s icon.
Yes.
Days of Thunder is 80s, isn't it?
It probably is, yeah.
88? No, it's 1990. Suck it.
All right, fair enough. But for what we did see of this game, it looked like it really wanted to be Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
It really, really wanted to be 90s Grand Theft Auto. But looking at this list of announcements, is there anything that sticks out to you guys as being super exciting?
I mean, I'm not like a big roguelike player, but I think Hades 2 is probably one of those games that I think everybody's going to be playing when it comes out. So it's definitely something that if it's time for me to try it out, I would definitely be interested in that. Of course, I'd have to go back and play the first Hades, but it looked fantastic. From what I can tell, it kind of captured the feeling of the original game as well. And it sounds like it's just more of the same, which is, I think for Hades fans, is fantastic.
Yeah, they started showing the trailer and I was like, this looks exactly like Hades. And I was thinking that maybe they were doing another title just with the same kind of art style. And then they popped up the name Hades 2 and I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was going to play it either way, but Hades was fantastic. I think it came out in 2020 and this little indie game, and it took the world by storm and everybody was obsessed with it. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was even up for Game of the Year, but didn't win. But yeah, it was fantastic. And I'm super stoked to be getting a Hades 2.
I'm looking forward to what Ken Levine is going to be doing with a space version of BioShock. Mm-hmm. BioShock is one of my all-time favorite games, and I'm just kind of giddy in anticipation of what he could possibly do going forward. The only one that caught my eye, of course, was Rockay City. When you take some of the greatest 90s icons that the 90s has to offer, and I say that with some sarcasm.
Yeah, a little tongue-in-cheek there.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at the cover, yeah, you get to see Danny Glover when he looks totally like Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon on here with this.
He's too old for this now.
Exactly. Get too old for this. He's got the classic gun holster that goes around his shoulders. It almost looks like a bra or whatever that you just sling your weapon into. That's what I think of when I think of Danny Glover and Murtaugh. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what this game has to offer. 90s Florida, come on. If they don't have Vanilla Ice's full album as a soundtrack, I'm going to be supremely disappointed.
I wonder who owns the rights to that.
Definitely not him.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say that's true.
So maybe temper your expectations.
Right. Those are the two games that I'm looking forward to. Oh, and Street Fighter 6. I want to see what goes on with that game.
Another one that I'm looking forward to is Earthblade by Celeste developer Extremely OK Games. It kind of has the same like pixel art style look to it, but the trailer showed like them panning across a large map of a game, which to me kind of made it look like this may be a Metroidvania. And also this term that they're using, exploration. So if you're going to explore, that's a Metroidvania.
Might as well get some action out of it.
The one that I'm not going to get into, but the trailer was crazy intense, was...
It was bonkers.
Right. Death Stranding 2, where there's people coming into the building that you're in. There's some kind of raid happening. You grab your child, you hop on a bike, the bike gets bombed, the child is laying by themselves out in this field, and you go to crawl towards them and you end up either passing out or dying. I'm not sure which. What the
Having not finished Death Stranding, I guess it's 50-50 that it could just be your run-of-the-mill bonkers Kojima trailer where it's not meant to make any sense. Or maybe if you know how the first game ended, it makes sense. But pretty much, yeah, that trailer was so weird. It was like the essence of Kojima boiled down into like 60 seconds or so.
Actually, that's the whole game. That's it.
That's it right there? No, Kojima would never make anything so short.
No, you just replay that over and over again. It's on loop for about 60 hours, right? That's the end of the game. And then all of a sudden, it's congratulations.
A winner is you. All right, before we move on, let's take a quick break to talk about our sponsor. This segment is proudly sponsored by the Elitist Podcast. It's a show where three friends and occasional guests play games about video games, including trivia, game show games, and more. Here's this week's trivia question. Mousetrap, the mobile game Perchang, and the music video for this song, This Too Shall Pass by OK Go, are all incarnations of Rube Goldberg devices. PC gamers got a taste too after the first game in what series was released in 1993. Tune in to the Elitist podcast this Wednesday to hear the answer. You can find the Elitist on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll also have their links in the show notes. I didn't know they made a Mousetrap game.
It's more like creating a Rube Goldberg machine on your PC, more or less.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you a hint, and it probably will not result in an answer, but here's a hint. One of the Elitist team members, the acronym for this game spells out their first name.
Yeah, that's gonna, yeah. Sorry, I don't think I'm gonna get that one.
Yeah, 90s PC games are not a category where I will ever do well on Jeopardy, so.
I lost on Jeopardy, baby.
Man, is that another Weird Al
yes, it
reference? My cup floweth over, sir.
I'm gonna get a third one before the episode's out.
Gotta have goals. It's a PC game called
Redacted.
Oh, okay.
I got nothing.
Not familiar with it.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
Me neither.
Huzzah! It's a clean sweep.
Thank you for coming, students. Please take your seats. Welcome back to Professor Ryebread's Gaming History 101. And in today's lesson, we'll be discussing one of the most influential game developers to ever come out of Japan, whose creation has been enjoyed by hundreds of millions of children and adults for the last almost 30 years. Today, we'll be covering the early history of Satoshi Tajiri. Now, Tajiri was born on the outskirts of Tokyo on August 28, 1965, and he was kind of an interesting kid. So one of the things that he did was he was big into bug collecting and actually got the nickname Dr. Bug or Professor Bug, depending on how you translate that into Japanese. But he was obsessed with finding bugs. He would go out during different seasons of the year and look for new bugs. He would go and lift up a rock and then come back weeks later to see what other bugs were on there. And he had spent a lot of time in his youth exploring sections of kind of the outskirts or the suburban areas of Japan in Tokyo. And he loved exploring for bugs so much that he would take the bugs and stuff that he found and present them in front of his class. So much so that his teacher actually set aside regular times for him to present his findings in front of the class. So
That's nice.
right, encourage a kid. The unfortunate part is that, during the 1970s, urban sprawl was a big thing that was happening in Japan as it kind of expanded out, and the rivers and some of the rural areas of his childhood were basically gone. Dammed up some of the rivers. They had paved over a lot of the areas that he used to go and explore in. So this whole bug collecting thing, he actually had aspirations of becoming an entomologist, kind of went by the wayside. But soon enough, he found a new obsession, which would become his life work, which of course is video games. Now, as I'm sure you're probably aware, Space Invaders, of course, took Japan by storm in 1978, and Tajiri was swept up in the tempest himself, even despite the disapproval of his parents. So cool with bug collecting, video games, not so much. But Tajiri was pretty good at video games. He gained a reputation at his local arcade as kind of a whiz kid, and he earned the nickname the Storm of the Arcade.
Dang, that's a pretty epic nickname.
Right? Which I'm sure sounds even cooler in Japanese. I'm guarantee you that. And he eventually decided that he wanted to help out his friends and fellow gamers who didn't have kind of his natural talent for games. So he ended up kind of creating guides for players for each of them, one of the games for them to get better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Giving back to the community instead of fleecing it for all it's worth.
Well, the interesting part is he kind of fleeced the arcade because he would come in and play them so often and he wouldn't have to pay as much because he was so good at the games. They finally were like, all right, listen, here's a Space Invaders cabinet, take it home and just you play at home. Don't come into the arcade anymore.
It's like that guy getting kicked out of the all-you-can-eat buffet.
Exactly.
Yep.
So Tajiri, he got to the point where he wasn't necessarily just satisfied with playing and then helping other players. He kind of wanted to make his own games. So as a child, he ended up programming a game for a contest where he had developed a sequel to his favorite game, Space Invaders, and the contest was held by Sega, and he won the contest and was actually brought to Sega's headquarters to accept the grand prize, which apparently he actually split with his parents. So thanks, guys. You're not very encouraging.
You see what I do for you?
Right, exactly. You're not very encouraging, but we got a free Space Invaders cabinet at home, and I just gave you some money.
Well, I'm sure his mother was thrilled when he showed up with that thing.
Oh, of course, right? Rolling it down into the house. Hey, guys.
Where are you going to put that thing? Bend over and I'll show you.
Kind of getting back to this whole idea of making guides and tips for his friends at the arcade, he kind of recognized that there was a lack of media coverage for video games at the time, and he decided that he wanted to create his own tips and trick magazine that he ended up calling Game Freak.
Okay.
Yes, it was a handwritten guide by Tajiri himself, and basically, in order to make copies, he just photocopied everything and put it together and stapled it together pretty we'll say Bush League wise. And the interesting part, though, is the magazine eventually became kind of an underground success, and orders started to flood in from all over Japan, so much so that he got help stuffing envelopes with new issues from his mom and his sister. They would sit at the kitchen table and stuff envelopes. Now, eventually, he would pivot from making guides to developing his own games. So he kind of went back and forth between those. And he was convinced that he needed to program games for the newest Nintendo Famicom system. But, he and his team that he ended up bringing in didn't have a whole lot of experience or capital to get a license from the big end. So they decided to pitch a game instead that they created for Namco called Quinty, where players traverse a grid and flip tiles while avoiding enemies. And Namco published the game, and it sold over 200,000 copies in Japan. And that ended up giving them enough clout to basically get Nintendo's attention. So in 1989, Nintendo, of course, would release the Game Boy, which came along with the link cable option, which really piqued Tajiri's interest. And he wanted to create a game where players could exchange items via the link cable to help each other out. That actually started because him and his friend were playing Dragon Quest II, and his friend had gotten 2 really rare item drops, and he had been playing even longer than his friend and never got one. So he was like, come on, like, I put in the effort here. So he was like, well, it would be cool if you could trade in between games to help each other out. Looking back at his youth and his love for bug collecting, he came up with a new concept of it for a game where players could capture monsters, collect them, and trade them. Pitching the idea in 1990 to Nintendo, they absolutely loved it. And in particular, it caught the attention of Shigeru Miyamoto. However, due to the inexperience of Game Freak, the development of his idea would take over 6 years to come to fruition, which is, nowadays, 6 years to make a game. It's like, oh, wow, that's really short.
Right.
But definitely not for a Game Boy game. So in order to kind of continue to fund his project, him and his team ended up taking on development for a bunch of other titles, including Smart Ball for the Super Famicom, Mario and Wario, which was a Japanese-only release, Yoshi for the Game Boy, which he was able to create and publish in 6 months, and even published a game for Sega called Pulse Man. So he even broke the rules a little bit. Now, thankfully, Tajiri and Game Freak were able to finish their game, and they ended up calling it Capsule Monsters. They, however, kind of ran into some copyright issues with the name, so they had proposed Capumon with a C and Capumon with a K before settling on Pocket Monsters, which eventually became what game?
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
And while we're on the subject,
Are you kidding? Wow.
every time one of us pronounces it Pokemon, we get a lot of flack for saying it Pokemon. But I want to point out that Geoff Keighley in the Game Awards also said Pokemon. So I hope you're all giving Jeff the same amount of flack that you give us.
Because Jeff is God.
Right. It's the same people that pronounce it GIF. Like, oh, the creator calls it GIF, so it's a GIF. No, it's GIF. You don't say it. I'm not even going to get into that argument.
You can feel it seething in him. Sleep now, sleep.
Yeah.
So, they came up with the name Pocket Monsters, and they're looking to ship this. And Miyamoto actually stopped them and said, hey, if you're looking for people to utilize the link cable, why don't you make 2 versions of the game that contain different monsters, and that would encourage players to trade? Frickin' genius idea. So good on you, Miyamoto, for that. But that also means I have to spend twice as much when I buy a Pokemon game. So bad on you, Miyamoto.
Exactly what they wanted you to do.
Exactly. Now, the game released at around the same time as the N64 was gaining popularity. So Tajiri and crew were kind of concerned that players had moved on from the Game Boy. However, there was a pretty large population of young gamers in Japan who were still really dedicated to the Game Boy because it was much cheaper to buy games for. So the game essentially became this success overnight. The popularity was growing, and they recognized that they kind of had a hit on their hands. And come to find out that during the development phase of the game, an extra Pokemon was added.
Say it. Just let it roll. Pokemon. Deal with it.
Was added to the game as a joke that only could be accessed by Game Freak employees, but word had kind of gotten out about this hidden monster. So rather than hide it, Tajiri used this hidden Pokemon, which is known as Mew, as a way to garner interest in the game. And it worked. And Tajiri even gave out copies to 151 players, because there's 151 Pokemon, that included access to Mew. Now, the first 2 were Pocket Monsters Red and Green. They would eventually go on to sell more copies in Japan than there were children in the country at the time, because many players, like myself, bought both copies to have access to all the Pokemon. So the success of the game, though, led to a manga for Pokemon, a trading card game, and eventually an anime that they would use to help market the game in the West. And there was only one problem. Porting the game to the English version was actually deemed impossible due to the patchwork code that was used to put together the game by the team of inexperienced developers over a 6-year period. So the game was actually rebuilt from the ground up and distributed to the West as Pokemon Red and Blue, which included new art for Pokemon that was a little less cutesy. So if you've ever seen what Pikachu looks like in the US version, he looks, he's a little frumpy, but he looks like he's a cute little toy. If you look at him in the Japanese version, he is extremely obese. He's a little portly guy. But there's 100 examples of the differences between the Japanese version versus the US version. And it's actually, there's even YouTube videos that you can look up. It makes it pretty interesting. But it's just a result of the fact that they had created this Frankenstein of a game that they had developed. It worked for them, but when they had to transport that and change all of the names and turn it into English characters, it was just an absolute mess, and they couldn't touch it. Now, Pokemon Red and Blue, of course, though, was released 2 years after its original Japanese release and was a roaring success in the West and became a worldwide phenomenon almost overnight, supplanting Tajiri as a superstar in the gaming industry. Now, Pokemon since then has led to over 80 different games published based on the IP and over $100 billion in sales overall. To this day, the release of new games is often considered to be a much anticipated event, even though new games don't stray much from the original formula. They are the original Call of Duty, sir.
How dare you make that decision?
Yeah, you just offended both fan bases, I'm pretty sure.
Original Madden?
I'll allow it.
So to wrap things up, Tajiri isn't exactly a household name for many people, even amongst gamers, but his games have provided joy for billions of people across the globe. And he's really a classic example how following your dreams doesn't mean you have to follow the paths of others. And sometimes you just have to blaze your own trail and rely on your passions to push forward. Thank you for attending today's lesson. And just a reminder, if you do have ideas for a story you'd like to hear, send us a message at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com, and we might feature your suggestion.
And I guess I should follow his his guidance and just quit and play video games. That's what I really want to do.
Too late for that, Donnie. Too late.
He was here to be like, that's not what I did.
I should really get on an esports team.
So dozens of people could wear your jersey. Dozens!
Exactly. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you for listening to episode 51 of Gamers Week Podcast. And a big thank you to the Retro Game Club Podcast, the Elitist Podcast, and Love Retro BTW for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget to check out their links in the show notes. If you want to connect with Gamers Week, follow us on Twitter at GamersWeekPC. Email us at gamersweekpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our merch store at gamers-week-podcast.creator-spring.com. Or if you want to do it the easy way, follow the link in the show notes. And join us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamersweek. And finally, since you made it all the way to the end of this episode, please leave us a rating and a review to let us know how we did. We really do value your feedback. While you're there, consider subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice.
I want to hear you say it.
What?
I want to hear you
What am I
say
saying?
good night. You got to say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Oh.
Should we be charging extra for this?
Oh, my little hungry one. Hungry hunt, come and get a piece of my bologna.
Oh, he got it in. He got it in. Applause.
Yay.
Man, promises made, promises kept.
We will feature 3 Weird Al Yankovic references every episode from this day forth.
Good luck.
That one's on you.
Right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, folks. Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut.
Welcome to Gamers Week Uncut, Patrons with Benefits. This is the unscripted, patron-only bonus cast with less editing and more dirty jokes. We don't know where the conversation will go, but we're sure it will be weird.
This fish just went right on my nipple, and I'm just like,
I Google Street Fighter 6. The first search result that comes up is people think they can see Ryu's dick in the Street Fighter 6 reveal.
Listen up here, kids. You're not going to want to get one of those VD-STDs things, right? Make it fall off. When you go, grab a pro. You'll be doing it for America.
that was perfect.
If you want to hear weekly episodes of our patron-only bonus cast, join us at patreon.com/gamersweek.